Welcome to another exciting episode of Smash Writing. I am your host, Paul. This is Justin's still not here, but he is home recovering. Week-to-week update. We should be expecting a big announcement sometime in the near future. Hopefully, by the time the next episode comes out, we get a set return. But as you already know, he started vlogging, so he is working from home, and we can go from there. Today's episode is basically, the name says it all, as we try to make these titles clear, so it's no clickbait. You get what you see, or you get what you read. Greyhound review reaction. Now, this is really for a lot of you fans who love war movies, or a Tom Hanks fan, and stuff like that. It took we are doing a lot of reviews because obviously with the pandemic, there's really nothing new to really look into, but there's tons of movies that you just don't have time to get to and review and then finally catch up. My brother-in-law basically recommended this film, said, you gotta watch it a few weeks back, and I was able to finally get to it. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm not for war movies, but I really haven't watched a lot of war movies. I mean, I know there's a couple out there that I would like to start reviewing, write a review about. Dunkirk, 1917. These were all like really popular ones. So I do want to I'm curious to see if I will like them. But this movie was very efficient with everything it did. And that is something that you don't hear too often. Like, the runtime was 90 minutes, and a lot of films out there, they have run times that are, everybody wants to make a super long movie. But the problem is, when you make a super long movie, you gotta fill that time frame that will entertain the fans. Long on a movie, and then you just start putting filler stuff in there, and basically filler stuff is you're just trying to add to the plot, and it just does not work. Sometimes it does, most of the times it really doesn't, because a basic person can tell you that, like, oh, this scene didn't make sense, and stuff like that. And you, even a critic will actually agree, like, yeah, they kind of just added stuff in there to fill the time to justify its runtime. They really didn't give no hint of that. Well, this film is 90 minutes long. It was supposed to come out, I believe, it was supposed to be released June 12th, 2020, and it was a Sony film, and Sony's track record's up and down. The budget was $50 million. Which, I mean, if this was a normal year, normal situation, a $50 million budget in the month of June, when basically the summer box office is just kicking off, it's pretty, that's a pretty low number. Usually when you get into May, June, July, and early August, your big budget films are, 150 plus, and so forth. And then, of course, you get those occasions where a film is, in November and it's like 200 million. But you gotta understand, those are established franchises that are doing that. When you're a single film trying to make a name, you do want to kind of aim for a smaller budget. You might want to go and look in the timeline of like, this would fit there, blah, blah. Well, as you know, we're in this pandemic, and a lot of movie theaters are closed, so it was time for, they wanted this film released. So Apple bought the rights, and like I said, this is my research, because I actually did not, I thought, and stupid me, that they made this film, but they bought the film. Different things. Because I always wonder, like, when you see Netflix doing these movies and all these streaming services, that will make a movie for $100 million. You're like, how are they ever going to get that money back? Because there's no advertising, there's nothing like that. You're not getting a cut of the profits and all that. So, but but Apple bought it. They didn't make it. So obviously, they like to call it original, but it's not their doing. So Greyhound. What is this movie about? Well, from the previews, you knew it was a war movie. This takes place, if you know your history, and this takes place during World War II. It's a battle for the Atlantic, basically. A blockade here, blockade there, convoy, merchant ships. The Allies had to protect merchant ships that were trying to deliver goods to Liverpool. And, of course, Germany at that time had their blockade of making sure, the rest of the world was cut off from, getting supplies from Europe to America, etc. So it was up to the Navy to make sure these merchant ships got where they had to need to. Yes, there was plenty of ships that were sunk from the Germany. The Nazis, they lost, but they still won their little parts here and there. But obviously, we know from knowing our history, those ships still survived to get to the goods and all that. Well, like I said, the runtime was 90 minutes. There was very little character development, and I don't know if that's a knock against the film, because it told the battle from a captain's point of view, and I think anytime you get in the war, there was no love stories. You had Tom Hanks, who was the commander of the Greyhound, this was his first wartime assignment. I believe, to my understanding, watching the film, he got promoted. He got to be the captain, and boom, he's right off during the war. The only real character development you see per se with Tom Hanks' character is probably at the beginning, where he has a love interest and he's talking about proposing to her when he comes back, in that order, and she basically tells him it's not going to be the right time. And then it kicks back to him being on the ship. And that's like as much character detail you're possibly going to get. So, the plot of the film basically breaks down to, and spoilers, he leads the Greyhound as the lead ship. He is instantly goes on like this 48-hour of barely sleeping, no breaks. The Nazis are doing their sneak attacks. And for his first kill, he gets a U-boat, and, they celebrate shortly, but then they quickly learn there are more on the way. They get mocked, they get taunted by Nazis who hack their system and tell them, like, oh, we killed merchants, you guys are going to be next, blah, blah, blah. Tom Hanks' character is, even though he's a first-time captain, first-time war assignment, he's very clever. And he works around the clock, and they are ducking and dodging these torpedoes from the U-boats. And, he avoids 2 torpedoes at once in 2 different directions at the same time. It's paper fell, crazy. It's incredible. He works very hard. They're even when radar wasn't working for them, him and his crew works together, and they do their thing. And the movie, it is very effective using the action. Obviously being a Navy, being on the ocean, the boats are really the still a show. But you see Tom Hanks' character running from side to side of the ship. Go this way, go that way. He's doing all 9 yards. you had some sad moments, obviously, in the film during the battle because even though he lost only 3 crew members, I mean, obviously you don't want to lose any member, and one of the members is a waiter that I guess he was somewhat close with, named George, and he took that one a little bit more personally. But he still managed to survive, and Tom Hanks' character survived, but he was constantly on his feet, and you seen that it took the toll on him because he was running back and forth, going through his shoes like there was no tomorrow. But he did everything he could to keep his crew intact, keep his ship intact, obviously. So it's real good in that department. Now, I think one of the best highlights is, of course, the ending. And when they got to air coverage, which is, the part of obviously the battle with the field per se, and for the podcast people, I'm using air quotes, where they get air coverage because their planes can protect them a little bit better. But, they had to get to that point to get protection. The merchant ships, at the end of the call, when they get to the other backup, the Greyhound gets relieved of duty, and they inform the Greyhound that go back and get the other 2 ships, and you did your job well. We can't thank you enough. And they asked him, like, is this your first, Tom Hanks said, yeah, this is my first wartime assignment. How many U-boats did you sink? 4. Wow. I mean, that is a big feat for them. And word quickly gets to these other ships, these merchant ships, and as Tom Hanks goes and gives command over so he can go and rest until they dock, everybody's celebrating. Everybody's giving them, they clap as soon as they see the Greyhound. Everybody's on board all these other ships, and they're praising the Greyhound and their commander for basically protecting them and saving their lives. And by putting it was such emotional. Like, I got choked up, and I'm still choked up thinking about it because I like visualizing the scene because I just got done watching it. Visualizing the scene again, it was a very powerful scene, and I think that was like one of the highlights of this film. So, giving it an overall review, I do have to say, I think everything you could want in a film in a 90 minutes, like breaking down each part, like the action was there to keep you in tune. The detail was there to keep you like, okay, I'm confused. No, I'm not. They're breaking down military terms. They're visualizing it for you. I mean, the character development wasn't fully there, but I don't think it needed to be there because they wanted just the Greyhound as a whole and their captain. So could there be character development? But sure, but that also means putting stuff in, and for a 90-minute window, like I said, you still have to entertain fans. So there was that. Said the action was on par. The acting from Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is a brilliant actor. There's no doubt about that. He is one of our better talents in Hollywood, and you can't praise him enough, to be honest with you. So, even though he's been in some bad movies, his performance has still always been, good to great, and so forth. So, the acting was on par. Like I said, he was mostly the main star. You had, the first and second commanders and stuff like that. But, basically the lines were, like, very minimum for everybody. Said, once again, it didn't need to be. The story, it was selling the story that made the best part, interesting for the show. Now, a question I do have to wonder, like, if this film did make theaters a $50 million budget, I would probably ballpark it being a hit. and probably sticking right around the 400 million marker. It was not going to be a flop. I know that everybody could appreciate this type of film. So in the end, I'm actually giving it an A plus for a rating. I really am, because it didn't feel like 90 minutes. It literally felt like a half an hour. And then you look at the clock and you're like, oh man, the runtime's 90 minutes. That's insane. And I like movies like that. When you're able to watch a film, understand the story, enjoy the action, not having it go overboard that we're so used to. Good quality acting, action, shorter film, tells the story that it needs to tell. I can't complain. So I can't wait to see if it's going to be up for any awards, obviously. But I'm giving it an A, and I would recommend anybody who loves war films, loves Tom Hanks, or enjoy a good war film, to go ahead and watch it. It's one of the better ones, I think. And obviously, I want to review more war films, and there's tons of materials out there for us to review, and I'm sure we'll get to it. But this was definitely a good film to enjoy. I think it was like PG-13, but only borderline PG-13. But like I said, it didn't need to be a lot of swearing. There didn't need to be this, didn't need to be all that. It told the story efficiently. And like I said, when you have an efficient film, it can lack things and have other things, but if it's completely balanced, it's a great film. And like I said, I'm recommending everybody that's a fan of movies in general just to watch it and appreciate it. So that A+ rating, boom, there's our reaction for that. Once again, I hope next week I'll give a better update of when Justin is going to return to the studio. But like I said, he's back to blogging. And can't wait to see what goes on from there. So I am your host who works 24 hours, 7 days a week on Smash Writing, Paul. Justin's home. But till next time, guys, bye.